It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Hope you're having yourself a great Thursday. Also, of course, big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. Remember to become a subscriber to our free emails. You just got to go to realagriculture.com/subscribe. So don't miss out on that. We got a Western Canadian update, Eastern Canadian update, machinery, cattle, dairy, mind your farm business, the agronomist. There's tons of options out there for you, depending on where you farm and your area of interest. Okay, today on the show, it's the Farmer Rapid Fire, of course, like we do every single Thursday. It, of course, is also brought to you by Corteva Biologicals. Corteva Biologicals, we're growing together. To learn more, you can visit biologicals.corteva.ca. Today on the show, we got some great farmers. We've got Corey Loessin joining us out of Saskatchewan. Scott Keller is out of Alberta. Mark Huston is out of Ontario. And we've got a newcomer, a rookie, a freshman to the Farmer Rapid Fire. It is Scott Douglas, who is also from Ontario. He's down in the Leamington area. The Corteva agronomist that's joining us today, it's actually the product manager for Corteva Biologicals. Tammy Jones out of Saskatchewan will be joining us as well. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. And you can also find Real Agriculture across all the different social media platforms. And we start off this week's Farmer Rapid Fire with a freshman, a rookie, on the Farmer Rapid Fire. It is Scott Douglas, farms in Leamington, Ontario. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
Good, Shaun. How are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. So, okay, like I said, this is your first time on the Farmer Rapid Fire. Now, not the first time, though, on a Real Agriculture show, because you were featured on RealAg Shops, correct? Yes, I was. Yep. Yeah, that's a really popular series that we've been doing. That was fantastic. We always get lots of feedback from people when they look. It's sort of like MTV Cribs for shops, and everybody has a lot of different commentary. Some of it is sort of like, I wouldn't say mean, but sort of like pokes at stuff, like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And some of it's just like, wow, beautiful shop. So was that a good experience for you?
It was, yeah. We had lots of positive feedback from a lot of people, and people come up to me and, yeah, really like what we did. And like I said, compared to some of the other shops that you've showcased there, we're not quite as fancy as those, but we tried to do the best job we could do.
Yeah, it's whatever works for your farm. There's no right or wrong. It's what works for you. Okay, tell us about your farm.
We are a 2,000-acre row crop farm in the north municipality of Leamington. Grow corn, soybeans, and a little bit of wheat. I'm a third-generation farmer, and my son here is hopefully coming home to farm in the spring when he gets done college.
Nice. Now, when I hear Leamington, I've been down your way before. I think like tomatoes.
Yep. At one time, there was a lot of tomatoes growing here. We were like the processing tomato capital of Canada. That's no longer the case. That's kind of shifted over into Kent County now, and a few changes down here. But at one time, we had Heinz going and Sunbright and 2 or 3 other tomato processing plants.
Now, isn't Leamington like almost the southernmost south tip of Canada?
It is. I've been over to the States a few times and to the Commodity Classic, and you get talking to farmers over there, and you tell them where you live, and you tell them you live 45 minutes south of Detroit, and they kind of look at you like you got two heads. How are you in Canada? And you live south of Detroit. But, yeah, we're in that little peninsula that hangs down into Lake Erie. That's us.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, if you draw a line across, like, from the southern tip of Canada, where you are, all the way across the U.S., you'd hit like Northern California, meaning you are south of Washington State and Oregon, which is crazy.
Yep, yeah, it is. Yep, we line up with Northern California, and yeah, that's why we've got some grapes here growing and some vineyards down here, and a little bit of diversification that way.
Yeah. So, how are the crop plans looking for 2025 for you?
They're looking good. They're looking better than they did 3-4 months ago, that's for sure, with a little bit of a spike in commodity prices, and that always helps out. And yeah, things are looking good, and we've received more winter this year than we normally get, and I think that's going to be a good thing. It's going to get us back to more of a traditional spring.
Okay, what kind of spring you been having?
Last year was, well, it was warm everywhere, but we really didn't get much frost at all last winter, and we had fleabane and start to grow in February. So by the time we got in with our burn down, they were good and healthy and had a pretty big jump start on us. So this year, that's not happening.
I guess you go through the crops again. Are you corn? Did you say soybeans?
Corn and soybeans are our major crops. We grow a little bit of wheat. Wheat Pete wouldn't like me very much because I'm not a big wheat fan, but we grow a bit of it.
I like for so many people in our Real Agriculture audience, when they mention wheat, and if it's like any sort of a negative, it's always like, yeah, sorry, Wheat Pete. There's like all these apologies. It's just, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, yeah. So funny. But, no. What do you, so you mentioned the markets have kind of come up a little bit. What's kind of your thought there? How aggressive have you been in your selling for the 25 crop? Are you sitting on the sidelines or doing some pre-selling? What are you doing?
We've done a little bit. We need to do some more, but I'm trying to wait till we get a little closer to spring and get into that hopefully market seasonality where we get into spring and see some higher highs. Now, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with President Trump? It's a day-by-day process here, and we'll see what happens. Markets have held up dramatically well during all the turmoil, I thought, anyway.
Any other members in your family farm with you?
Just my dad is retired, but he's an old farmer, so he's here every day, and my son, he'll be coming home here.
Oh, he said that.
Farm in April.
So you said he's away at college?
Yep.
Okay, what's he taking there?
He took the agriculture program, University of Guelph at the Ridgetown campus.
Nice.
Yep.
So he's getting the tutelage from the like Dr. Dave Hooker and people like that.
Yep. Yeah, he's learning lots and soaking it up, and he'll come home with lots of great ideas, and yeah, we can go from there.
Okay.
I'll try not to be the old farmer stuck in his ways.
Isn't it funny how things change really quick on us, right? We move very quickly from like where we're the young buck, all full of ideas, and all of a sudden you snap your fingers and you look around and all of a sudden you're the old guy.
Oh, for sure. Like when we took him down there and took a tour of the school, and when we started walking around, that's where I went to school, and it felt like yesterday. It felt like yesterday I was there. It's funny how fast time goes.
Yeah, it's because, Scott, here's the secret. It wasn't like yesterday. It wasn't yesterday.
No, it wasn't. No, definitely not at all.
I'm the same way. I went to the University of Lethbridge. I'm the same way where I live close to campus, and so I'm on campus frequently. And one, campus has really grown, but two, I sort of do the same thing, or I sort of think like it was 5 years ago, and it was like over 20. So you just time. Is there certain things that you will he's going to come back to the farm. Have you thought a lot about what that intake is going to look like? Like, are you going to give him certain responsibilities, or like, how are you going to manage this transition?
Yeah, that's the plan. He's been very active in the farm, and I plan on giving him spraying, and we're looking at maybe possibly getting into strip till, and that'll be kind of his department, and different things like that, and then try to bring him in on the management side and bring him in that way. My dad was good to me that way, and I want to continue that on and bring in the next generation and get him involved and get his feet wet.
Great stuff. Well, yeah, and we have, at Real Agriculture, we got lots of resources on, because I think sometimes when we talk about farm transition, we talk about ownership transition, but there's also operational transition, which is different, right? And it's trying to set that younger generation up for success. You want them to have adversity, you want them to make mistakes, but not big enough mistakes where it's like, oh boy, this is a big problem, right? Yep.
Yeah. No, and that's one opportunity my dad gave me right away, and I basically come home and it was in some situations it's sink or swim, and you learn a lot in those situations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unique models out there. I was talking to a farmer last week at one of the events I was speaking at, and what he did is when the boys came back, they did like where they had to take on some debt and sort of manage some acres themselves, and like he some skin in the game, so to speak, and feel that stress of that of having to carry some of that debt and things like that. So there is a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what happened when I come home. I bought a farm right away, but unfortunately, with land prices the way they are right now, it is virtually impossible for a young guy to be able to do that. So we're going to come at it a little different, and he's going to buy shares instead of buying land, and
nice.
We'll come at it that way.
What are land prices like in Leamington?
Well, it depends where you're at. I'm right near the greenhouse corridor. So land prices for greenhouse ground, if it's near the highway where there's gas and there's water, you're $40,000 to $50,000 an acre. Once you get a few miles off that, we're probably one of the cheaper areas to buy land. A lot of it's that $20,000 to $25,000 an acre mark.
Not cheap.
No, definitely not cheap, and takes a lot of acres to pay for an acre at that price.
You got to have some pretty good crops to pay for that, those kind of prices. Hey, well, Scott, thanks a lot for joining us here today on the Farmer Rapid Fire. I really appreciate it, and look forward to our next chat.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome stuff. That is Scott Douglas out of Leamington, Ontario. He's definitely in the rotation now. Great to have new farmers. If you are interested in being in the Farmer Rapid Fire, be like Scott. Reach out. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. We'll be back with more of the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Biologicals, right after this.
At Alliance Seed, our premium varieties of wheat, durum, barley, and oats are crafted to fit the unique needs of your farm. By choosing Alliance Seed, you're selecting reliable seed that enhances your production potential and boosts your bottom line. Discover how our top-performing seed products can elevate your fields at allianceseed.com or call us at 1-877-270-2890.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And we took the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Biologicals, to Chatham-Kent, Ontario. And we're talking to Mark Huston. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. How are you doing, Shaun?
Pretty good. What's happening on the farm there this week?
Just trying to figure out what's going on down south of the border and what's going on with the weather around here. It's been kind of an odd winter so far.
Okay, well, let's take the easier one first. What's going on with the weather?
It's like it's winter. Like, we're not used to this down here in Chatham-Kent. Like, we're getting snow on occasion. Like, it's been the minus 10s. Like, normally I'm wearing a T-shirt and shorts in this type of January weather. It's just uncommon for us.
You're not a winter guy. You don't like it.
What I'm a perfect fall spring guy. Winter I don't mind compared to summer because I sweat too much in summer. But winter, when it's really, really cold, I could do with it being, 15 degrees year round.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's really mild.
Well, 15 degrees is kind of nice, right? You don't have to wear a coat. You don't have to worry about wearing long pants. You can get away with shorts. You don't end up sweating too much, but who knows? I can't find a spot that's like that year round. So
you need to maybe farm mind you, the Caribbean gets pretty hot. So yeah,
I know, and that's my issue, right? You either get too cold in the winter or you get too hot in the summer, and so I guess I'm good where I am. So I'll
maybe Scotland.
Survive all right.
Scotland, if it's 22 degrees Celsius in Scotland in July, people are outside and they're like, "Oh my goodness, summer is amazing." And in the winter, it gets chill. It gets below 15, but it's not that farm.
Not horrible, right? And you've got the advantage of having a nice Scotch whiskey distillery not too far around the corner for you, right?
You just got to put up with the rain.
Yeah, and fog. And sheep.
Lack of
not
sun.
A sheep guy.
Lack of sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well I guess we're good here in southwestern Ontario. This is pretty decent, I guess.
Well, you just said you don't like sheep. I won't tell Lindsay. How's the hog business?
It's surprising, right? With the uncertainty that's happened south of the border, I think the hog market's, to me, one of the more exposed marketplaces as far as agricultural commodities in Canada. And the uncertainty, I think, is the bigger frustration than anything else, right? If we've got tariffs that we know we're getting, you can kind of address that. But right now we're kind of operating under an assumption that they're going to come at some point, but we don't know when, we don't know for how long, and we don't know how hard either, right? So right now, like, wiener prices, they're still seeing wieners go south of the border at pretty good prices. Like, we had a pretty steady price over the winter compared to what we normally would based on what the dollar's been doing. But how long's that going to last, right? And I don't think anybody really knows the answer other than maybe Donald Trump, and for him it might change, daily, right?
Do you have any part of your hog operations south of the border, or all your interests in Canada, if you don't mind me asking?
No, we're purely Canadian. We're lucky. Some of the neighbors have, relationships that they built up over the years, whether they have barns down there or whether they've just had people they can sell to. It's such an integrated marketplace, and especially with the number of processing plants here in southwestern Ontario being basically not very many. The opportunity to ship into the U.S. is pretty valuable. And so if we lose that opportunity with a 25% tariff, and if our dollar drops low enough, does it end up balancing itself out? It's still not great, but you still have all the expenses you have to deal with a low Canadian dollar too.
Yeah, true enough. That's not talked about enough, I think, based on my opinion. This is very interesting because I think you're right. The hog business is very exposed because of the high level of integration, at least one of the more high exposed industries that would be affected here from an agriculture standpoint. I heard President Trump talk about the steel and aluminum tariffs, and he said tariffs for everybody, but if you produce it here in the U.S., no tariffs. you mentioned like kind of the slim packing industry that exists. Are you worried about those packers packing up and going south, or has Mark considered maybe I should listen to President Trump? I'm going to pack up my bags and I'm moving to Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, if you can kind of maintain land prices what they are in Canada and maybe get kind of a decline in the U.S. marketplace, could you make that move? You know, I'm sitting on a farm I'm the 7th generation, so my movement ability historically is somewhat limited, just from a tie to the land standpoint.
Yep.
But from an economic standpoint, you'd have to think about it. But you also have to realize that you still have a fairly large marketplace here in Ontario that needs to be served. And so with the processing plants we have here in Ontario, we're probably still in the place where we could almost use another one here to serve the Ontario marketplace, not counting the export market. But it just hasn't gotten to that kind of, critical mass point of having one of the players expand or having the dollars kind of sit on the table to be able to do that yet.
Yeah.
And is a tariff and eliminating your kind of market south of the border where you just see reciprocal tariffs on pork coming in to the grocery stores, and do you see the Canadian producer coming out ahead on that? It'd be tough to find a processor that would want to shut that border down, but who knows, right?
It's
a different world we live in.
Kind of chaotic, trying to make sense of it all. I appreciate you discussing it and how it's impacting you. How's crop planning coming for the 25 crop?
Looks good. I'm glad to see a little bit of the run up in the marketplace for corn and soybean from what it was, right? But we've still got some room. We could probably run up a little higher if we
Yeah, listen to you. What should commodity prices be? Higher. What should fertilizer prices be? Lower. It's like...
Have you not ever heard a farmer talk like that?
Oh, God.
Same thing with tractor prices and combine prices. Got to get those down too, right?
I make that joke in my in some of the speeches to farmers I've been making at conferences, and it always gets a pretty good laugh. Like, or raise your hand if you think fertilizer prices are too high. Everybody puts up their hand. What should the price be? It's always like lower. It just cracks me up. Sorry, continue with your comments about planning.
No, I think we're in decent shape. It's going to be interesting. With the winter we've had a lot of rain, more so than other years, followed by quick freezes. So I'm a little concerned on some of the wheat, whether we might have some winter kill on that. So that could see some shifting of acres. But like compared to when we talked last, spring, early summer. Like I was figuring I wasn't going to get any wheat in the ground, and we ended up having such an open fall that a fair bit of wheat got in and looked really, really good coming into the winter. But I've got pretty big skating rinks on some of the farms right now that I don't know what it's going to look like in spring. So we'll see on those farms.
Do you have much wheat in?
Yeah, we're about average. We didn't tend to go crazy. We tend to be pretty consistent on our acreage year in and year out to try and, shift to the acres here and there. And it was good enough that we got everything that we wanted to plant into wheat in. So, that's a win.
What's happening with land prices in your area?
I would say steady. I'm not seeing quite as much kind of changing hands, but the stuff that is changing hands doesn't seem to be dropping in price, if that's fair.
Yeah, okay.
I would say it seems like it's sitting on market a little bit longer, but that's in certain spots. Like in my neighborhood, there aren't a lot of farms up for sale, and if they are for sale, they're gone pretty quick. And that's with prices continuing to creep up. But we'll see. We're kind of at that point in a lot of farmers' careers where there's that transition coming forward, and I think given the marketplace around where I am, there's a few farmers that are probably ready to maybe sell, but haven't yet. And so they may just be waiting for that marketplace to give them that indication, and their family to give them that indication too, right?
Well, and we also got the chaos of what's going on in Canada with the capital gains changes and that mess too, and brother.
Well, and it's not like politics are clean on either side of the border, right?
Oh, no, it's not. It's like
it's an interesting time to be living.
Trying to outduel each other. I don't know what, and not in a good way sometimes. It's no kidding.
Well, we've got huge opportunities here in Ontario. We've got elections provincially going on right now. We've got a federal election that's likely going to be called sooner rather than later. And then you've got an environment south of the border that's conducive to ongoing focus. Would be the most politically way I could say.
It's keeping us on our toes. It's keeping us on our toes. There's no doubt about that. Hey, Mark, thanks a lot for joining us here today on the Farm Rapid Fire. Really appreciate it, buddy.
No worries. Good talking.
Yeah, it's great to chat with you, too. That is Mark Huston out of Chatham-Kent, Ontario. Wintry Chatham-Kent, Ontario. We'll be right back to the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Biologicals, right after this.
If you're applying a low-rate N stabilizer, you might be falling for a losing strategy. Low-rate products promise great results, but may lack the potency of higher active ingredient concentrations, so great isn't always what you get. Don't put yield at risk. Put your trust in proven solutions. Anvol Nitrogen Stabilizer, Super U Premium Fertilizer, and Tribune Nitrogen Stabilizer from Koch Agronomic Services. These products offer higher active ingredient concentrations imitator brands can't match. See the difference at defendyourn.ca.
Looking for proven performance in wheat? Leamington Cereal Seeds has you covered. With locally adapted varieties bred across key growing regions, LCS delivers top-tier genetics for winter and spring wheat. In 2024, LCS farmers swept 12 national wheat yield contest categories and won the Bin Buster Award for the 4th straight year. Learn more by going to LeamingtonCerealSeeds.com. Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada. And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Corteva Biologicals, to Radisson, Saskatchewan. We're talking to Corey Leeson. Hey, Corey, how are we doing?
Doing great, Shaun. Yourself?
Pretty good. Have you been going out to any farm conferences or anything like that through the wintertime? I saw you at Crop Production Show, but have you done other stuff?
Not since Crop Production Show. Yeah, I did the 2-day meeting with all the farm commodity groups there, and of course went to the show for a day. And since then, I've got one coming up tomorrow. But
nice.
Yeah, took a break. Well, we hauled some grain in January and did this and that, and doing some shop work at times, and then keeping the snow moved too. Actually, It's been snowing fairly regular at home. I would say we're above average.
Yeah. Well, that's good, right?
Yep, for sure. It's good. We need moisture, and it'll help get things started in the spring when it melts.
How's the plan coming for the upcoming growing season?
Pretty much in place. I think in terms of crops, we follow a pretty rigid crop rotation, I would say, with the exception that we're curtailing pulses a little bit, actually pulses in rotation more than I'd like, but just being cautious around root disease. And so we're going to have kind of a bit on the lower side of pulses in terms of percentage for our crops, but otherwise things are staying much the same.
Now, is that more in the lentils or the field peas?
The field peas, we're still going to have lentils coming up, but actually no peas this coming year. And I don't know, maybe I'm being overly cautious in terms of stretching it out. We had a great pea crop this past year, really good, but I'm just really nervous about overtaxing that portion of the rotation and getting into a problem where we almost can't grow them. So, yeah. That's sort of the only change for us. Otherwise, we're sort of maintaining acreages of all the other things we grow.
Yeah. With that Aphanomyces, it creates a lot of havoc and problems. Is the stretching out the rotation, what are the researchers saying? Because you're heavily involved in this and pulse politics and the farm group level. Is like the stretching out to an 8 or a 10-year rotation, is that making a difference, or do we even know yet?
It's sort of one of the only defense strategies currently, really, but it's not like it makes. It's not the answer. You can still have issues even with, say, a 10-year break. And a lot of it seems to go back to how conditions were when you grew the pulse crop that had root rot issues. If it was a wet year, say in 2016, created a lot of issues, legacy issues in fields because infection was bad. And then, so if you go back into that field in 2026 and the weather conditions aren't great, could still have problems. No, rotation is not the answer, so to speak. It's just one of the few sort of coping mechanisms that we have right now until we get some breeding in place that is a better solution.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things that has been decent here is the markets are, I guess, trying to work their way from the bottom. That's been kind of nice over the past number of weeks.
Yes, so it's sort of rewarding some of us with that store and ignore kind of strategy.
Store and ignore.
yeah. Like that sort of counting on luck, I guess. But yeah, the prices on things have moved up some, and we've in our case we haven't marketed a whole bunch of the 24 crop really. I would say we're probably less than half sold on some stuff, most stuff. But yeah, now we're getting some forward bids for canola, for example, for basically $15 delivered. So it's better. The dollar depreciation is a factor, it seems. Yeah. Although it's been goofy watching the market because there's times when the dollar and canola move the same way, and they ought to move in opposite directions in terms of, but there's all these other complicating factors mixed in there, and so it is not real easy to sort of predict any direction for sure. Harder than usual, I would say, but.
Well, and the other part about that too, Corey, though, is you've got you got obviously the exchange rate, like you said, in the inverse relationship, or what you would think would be the inverse relationship between the price and the exchange rate movement. But you also have the overhang. You got to overlay there the tariff threat, right? Because canola was mixed up very much in that, and I don't think the tariff threats are going away. It's just there's a little bit of a reprieve here, but that's the other factor here. I think that's really kind of impacting and pushing some of these markets around.
For sure, yeah, for sure, yeah. And even broadly the tariff sort of talk issues, threat. I mean, it's a cloud hanging right now. I mean, you feel it because unsure of what all the consequences or impacts are going to be, and and then they're on, they're off, they're not coming on. Oh, there's going to be retaliation, which I mean, I don't know. I really think we ought to check ourselves in terms of the retaliation part a bit. I wish we'd think more strategically and diversify. Think more offensive instead of defensively. Really, I mean, I'm talking kind of as a country.
Yeah. So do you think that they shouldn't, you think it was a mistake there the past weekend when they announced the retaliatory list, or do you think they should have gone stiffer?
Well, personally, I've been trying to understand all the impacts of how this could go. And I find it interesting that we can say on one hand, yes, the tariffs are, on things that we sell to the U.S. are going to be bad for U.S. consumers. And then on the other hand, oh yeah, we're going to retaliate with tariffs on things coming into Canada. Well, ought to reason that that's bad for consumers in Canada then. So I think you get into this big mixed up sort of war that nobody's winning, and it's going to be just basically money coming out of the flow of goods or commodities to the government. And so rather than retaliating, I think there's reason to think, well, why don't we plan, and take action to diversify our market in terms of what we do sell, and grains would be a portion of a small portion really, but other things too. We could do that. It takes some will, but I just think that's a better approach rather than this start fighting back and forth and nobody's going to win that I can see anyway. I mean, there's parts I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I think how you've summarized that is kind of how a lot of the audience, in giving speeches here through this period, I've really, when you're facing the audience, face to face, and you get a chance to interact with farmers, really in Canada and the U.S., been traveling all over the place. You get kind of a feel for these are the kind of questions that people are asking that aren't, they have way too much nuance. And when I say that, they're not being discussed in kind of the mainstream, right? Where like there's some nuance here that I think a lot of people are kind of a little bit confused on and trying to make sense of all this and how it impacts them. And there's a lot of farmers that do a lot of cross-border shopping, a lot of cross-border selling. There's farmers that farm on both sides of the border. there's that too, right? I think sometimes we think about the relationship as like Saskatoon trading with, a company in Saskatoon trading with a company in Des Moines. But there's like think about all, like how much of the population lives like within 100 kilometers of that 49th parallel, and how many people are impacted by just the border getting thicker. Forget about who's paying the tariff and all that. Just trade getting more difficult. I think that's a concern for a lot of people. Period.
Yeah, for sure, and it really is eye-opening. I think for a lot of people how integrated the economies are. Really, I mean,
yeah.
People talk about buying their own country's products. Oh, sure, that's. Yeah, okay, but really, you get looking into it, and there is so much that is back and forth, or components of certain things are back and forth, and made one place, packaged in another place, perhaps, or all that sort of stuff. So it's very integrated.
Yeah. So as you look at the crop plan, is there a crop that has you feeling the most optimistic, or you're like, okay, I like how this is penciling out, or is it a mess, period?
Well, I don't know about the mess part. Things are pretty tight. The way I have calculated it, things are pretty tight across most of the crops that we have option to grow. So no, nothing exciting, and nothing too depressing necessarily. Although, I mean, it's going to be tight to actually pull out a true profit, I think. Unless something changes. Costs are high, and equipment costs in particular have risen so dramatically over the last X number of years, 4, 5, 6 years, that cost coming into the partial budget is big. And if you're really honest about that cost, then it's tough to come out with a profit. But I mean, having said that, some crops, I've often thought about wheat. I mean, we've grown wheat basically every year that I've farmed, and grown good crops of wheat and some less good, and it keeps you busy. You don't seem to lose a lot of money, but you don't necessarily make a lot of money. It's a make work project maybe. I don't know, but you just keep going with wheat, and it's kind of stable, I guess, in a way. But you never make sort of big money, I don't think. So yeah, I'm not really singling out any crops. Our past year, we did the best with the pulse crops, both lentils and peas. I'm kind of looking at lentils to be a good crop coming into the 2025 year as well. But aside from that, I think everything else is kind of barely right there at the. Hopefully, we can break even or make a wee bit.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of year, man. It is live to fight another day. It seems know your costs. That's a big part of it for sure. Hey, Corey, thanks a lot for joining us here this week on the Farmer Rapid Fire. All the best to you.
Well, thanks, Shaun. Yeah, great to be here. Talk to you again.
Okay, we'll be right back here on the Farmer Rapid Fire. We've got more stops yet to come. We'll do that when we come back. And the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Corteva Biologicals.
Co-op knows your community because we live here too. Our teams are your trusted partners with a range of expertise to help support your entire farm operation. And we're giving back. In the past 5 years, Co-op has invested over $1.1 billion in the prairies through building, upgrading, and expanding local facilities. And we've returned over $1.17 billion to Co-op members in the prairies. Co-op, we're all building something for the future. Here for your farm, here for your family. Learn more at coop.crs/farm.
There's power, and then there's superpower. Advancing the unstoppable superpower of pre-seed from New Farm. Take control. Eliminate weed competition and start clean in spring. Manage weeds early in canola, cereals, and pulses. Conquer, Goldwing, Thunderhawk, and Blackhawk EVO. Convenient formulations and multiple modes of action. Add more power to glyphosate, more benefits to your burn down. Go to newfarm.ca/burn down.
And we take the Farmer Rapid Fire into New Norway, Alberta, and we're talking to Scott Keller. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
I'm doing really good today, Shaun, and you?
Hey, pretty good. It's been a while since we've had you on the show.
Yeah, just things haven't lined up to talk, I guess, when you sound like you've been a busy guy, so.
Yeah, been all over the place. What's going on the farm here this week?
Loading wheat out in this cold weather, so that I guess I'm thankful that I'm only running an auger and not a truck. So yeah, but no, moving lots. We've moved quite a bit of grain. We didn't have as much to move as we normally would have because we were pretty dry last year and we had some quite poor yields, so didn't have to bag any grain. So yeah, it's been, we've moved 80% of our grain already, I would say.
Okay. Are you a cold weather guy? Do you like the cold, or are you?
I don't mind it, but it's been windy. Like, I'm not going to say it's Lethbridge windy, but it's been stupid windy this winter. So, we've had whiteouts, and there was kids sleeping in the school one night. Which I don't know if that's ever happened, just impassable roads and all kinds of stuff like that. We've got quite a bit of snow here we're just south of Camrose, but man, you start driving towards Ponoka, which is more west than it is south, but you get onto that highway and you can see bare spots in the field. So I'm glad we have snow because all the dugouts and sloughs are bone dry. Last year we said I've never seen it this dry before, and they went and got drier. So there's no potholes with water, but there will be in the spring, I would say, based on the snow we got now.
I was in Camrose last week. Yeah, there's snow, but I've seen more snow there. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's been, we've been out snowmobiling, and there's been a lot of years where the snowmobiling's quite poor because you're bouncing over rocks and you can still see stubble, but that's not the case this year. So it's above average, I would say, but yeah, we've had more snow in the past, but then it's still, what is it? We're not even halfway through February yet. So, it's been nice to see because we've been quite dry 2020 was our last wet year, and I guess I heard Drew Lerner talk at Crossroads, and I would like to see some mud again because it's been a while. It's been a while since we've had mud, so I'll start saying it'd be sure nice to see some mud.
As the kids say, Scott, it's been a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
How was Crossroads?
Good. Yeah, no, I liked the 2 days. I liked I guess they made that switch a couple of years ago, but it was back in Edmonton, which for me, selfishly speaking, that was nice. The venue, like, it's the old Mayfield, but it's under a different name. Venue's awesome. So I thought the speaker lineup was the best since like post-COVID. But it's funny. You talk to people, other people. Oh yeah, no, I looked at the speaker lineup and I didn't like it didn't sound anything too interesting. So that kind of, people judge the book by the cover, but for the most part, you don't have a clue who a lot of these speakers are, right?
Yeah.
So, so I don't know what some guys are looking for, but I think it was close to a sellout. So, but like I said, I really enjoyed the speakers. Thought it was one of the better ones in a while. So, and yeah, so
you know what's interesting, Scott. You said, like, don't judge a book by its cover. I see a lot. I get to a lot of conferences.
Yeah.
I'm at a lot of meetings. I see a lot of people multiple times. And I will say sometimes the best speaker at a conference is somebody that you have never heard of. So
yeah, like you just don't know, like, unless you're like yourself and you're on the road and you've seen or you've heard their talks before. Like you really don't know. And I guess the thing I really like a lot more is the panel type stuff, provided they have time for lots of questions from the floor, because that I think is really good. And now they're using text in questions through like a Slido app or something, and it gives some more control, because then you get those classic guys that go up, and I'm not going to say that I haven't done it before, but instead of being a 20-second question, it's a 2-minute anecdote.
Oh, the storytellers. It's question and answer. It's not story time, everybody.
That's right. So I really like the way they ask questions. So yeah, like, again, it's not the biggest. It's not like at the expo when there could have been 2,000 people there. It's just, but
yeah,
call it more of an intimate experience. So,
hey, I'm gonna ask you, how's crop planting coming along?
Good. Yeah, like for us, it's simple. We stick to a 4-year rotation, so it's more, you decide what varieties you want to grow, but even that, it's not a whole lot of flexibility there with our, we grow malt barley, and I'm not a guy that likes to try a lot of different canola varieties. I like to stick to something that I know that's proven.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone over my VR plan a few times already, had to buy a little bit more fertilizer from when we bought in the fall, just a ton here or there. Yeah, like it sure. One thing I can say for sure is it sure paid to soil test. Like with our bad yields last year, we have nitrogen in the soil out the wazoo. So there's some stuff where we're fertilizing 40 to 50 pounds of nitrogen less than we normally would be, just because it was so dry. Like we had it was our worst year since probably the 2002 drought for as far as yields go.
Worse than 21.
Oh, 100%. Like, Shaun, in 21 we caught enough little showers that, like, 21 we had, we're an AFSC crop insurance, so we carry 80% coverage. In 21 we would have been a little below average, but not in a payout. But prices were, through the roof. So we had a very good year in 2021 financially. last year, most of our crops were about 65% of our long-term crop insurance yield. So we collected crop insurance on everything. Canola was the only exception to that rule. So, yeah, like from a yield standpoint, we've had years where we've had lower yields on some crops, like back in 2002. But when you look at it for bushels below our crop insurance level for a payout, largest in our farm's history, I would say, like in 50 years. Like, but you know, we've been fortunate the last number of years. Like, I want to say, like, closer to Wetaskiwin, half an hour west of us, good crops, I think. And I want to say maybe we were 2 inches shy of having average crops. Like that yield, we had the best crops I'd ever seen come June 30th. Because we hadn't gotten that big rain we usually get late May, early June that causes drowned out spots. And I'm on the Alberta Pulse Growers Commission, and we had meetings up in Grand Prairie, and we were supposed to tour around to a couple farms, and I came home a day early because I was expecting to do fungicide spraying. And, you know, I was watching how hot it was getting, but the rain just disappeared from the forecast. And we went from basically the best crops I'd ever seen, Canada Day weekend, go up north for those couple days of meetings, come home, and it's like your butt cheeks are clenching up because it's like, this is bad, it's hot and dry, and we just didn't get that rain that I want to say most years we have that saves our bacon. And so we were finally, the shoe was on the other foot for us. And yeah, it was a big toll on the yield. And when I look at like just the X amount of rain, we were not even 2 inches shy of what we would have got in 21, 22, 23, all dry years, but respectable to very good yields. So I think it says a lot about the timing of the rain and, you know, soil moisture for sure. Like we depleted that tank over the last number of years and just haven't had a wet year. Like for us to have 2020 being our last year of excessive rain where we were pushing 20 inches of rain to barely having enough, you know, it took 4 crops and then finally the toll hit where timely rain just wasn't good enough. So that's why I'd be kind of nice to see another wet year again and recharge everything. So like we've got potholes and sloughs that across all our land, there's 2 of them that still have water in them come this fall. And there should be at least 1 on every field. Like it's been that dry for 3 years. So that's why I'm saying it would be sure nice to see some mud.
I think that for a lot of people that have been dealing with dry conditions in parts of Western Canada, I think there's probably a few people. We should get some T-shirts made. I think that would be a good idea, Scott. Hey, we've been talking to Scott Keller out of New Norway, Alberta. Scott, thanks a lot for joining us here today on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Yeah, you're welcome. Talk to you later, Shaun.
Okay, the Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Corteva Biologicals, and we'll be right back right after this.
I'm the kind of guy who enjoys his freedom. Sure, I have a wife, kids, and a mortgage. But now I have new On-Deck herbicide for wheat and barley. Thanks to a unique combination of actives, it delivers both superior control of tough weeds like kochia and proactive resistance management with, listen to this, complete rotational freedom. You can't tie this wild stallion down. Spray for today, plan for tomorrow with new On-Deck herbicide. Visit your retailer or Corteva.ca to learn more.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. The Farmer Rapid Fire is brought to you by Corteva Biologicals. Speaking of Corteva Biologicals, we're joined right now by the product manager for biologicals at Corteva. It is Tammy Jones. Tammy, how are we doing?
Kind of cool. It's a little bit cold out there. Is it cold out there for you?
Well, it is. I'm actually in Kentucky, and it's snowing here, so I brought winter with me.
Oh, no, that's terrible. It's Regina for me today.
Yeah.
Brandon, the last time we talked, like we both travel, which is great. But yeah, it is cold, like minus with a 3 kind of cold. Yeah.
Not -3, that's minus 30 Celsius.
30-ish, yeah.
And I'll remind all of our American listeners that at minus 40, that's where we intersect. So you can appreciate how bloody cold that is. I was in Regina last week, and it was also cold. So things have not changed in the last week.
The last time I was in Regina, it was a snowstorm, and the biologicals event that we were trying to have was effectively canceled by weather. And this time we almost got frozen out, but the attendance was sublime, like really good this time.
Wow, good. Okay, so tell us about the event. What'd you do?
So we call these our certified seller events, and Corteva's trying to approach biologicals in a slightly different manner than maybe some of the folks are doing, and that we're trying to set a baseline for understanding how plant hormones work with some of the micronutrients and the macronutrients, and make sure that we're trying to be realistic in the expectations that we set, and then that we're not going to be on every acre. How are we going to be on those acres? Where do we show up best? All that sort of thing. So some amazing questions in the room from the folks that were there. The one that kind of blew me away is, okay, if there's a stress, is there any way that we can measure the plant hormone levels to understand that a stress is happening so that we can mitigate the stress? And I think someday, like in a few more decades, we might get there. But if we think about plant hormone levels, part of it is the ratios, and that they're in such minute parts per million, parts per billion, that by the time we take the tissue and send it away to get sampled, we've probably degraded everything that needs to be measured. And so we wouldn't be able to measure it currently. The other thing that we need to think about when we're looking at biologicals is that we have to have the base plant nutrition, moisture, all the other factors ready to roll with those plant hormones. So we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, hey, let's do a biological and it's going to solve all your problems, and forget about fertility and forget about seeding depth and your seed treatment, everything else. Nope. All of those things need to be there in conjunction so that you're getting the maximum return on investment. Because if we decrease stress in the plant, but we have no building blocks, we're going to be really chill, but we're not going to be able to grow anymore, right?
Well, and with human health and wellness, we're just starting to convince people to try to do some hormone testing and things like that, and instead of just relying on physical symptoms. Right. Which is kind of what we do with plants, right? We wait to see physical stress, or we have some tests with like soil, moisture that tell us maybe how the plant is thriving or not thriving in their environment. But we really, we still have, you can see where the future may lead in some of these regards. And the more we understand that or are able to, advance that technology, the more opportunity potentially there is out there for the future of something like biologicals. Is that kind of how you see it?
So Dr. Mark Belmonte from the University of Manitoba is here with us, and we bring him to a lot of events because he's got the science behind it. And part of the thing that he mentioned is that if we're waiting for there to be an expression of that stress, we've lost our yield potential and we can't recapture it. So we need to be proactive with some of these things, just like human health. Let's go for a run or do the right things with our diet. We need to be proactive with these biologicals so that we're obtaining that yield potential that we're really striving for, instead of trying to fix a problem that's already happened.
You mentioned something earlier I just want to go back to, which is you're not over-promising.
I hope we're not.
Do you feel that that's happening a lot in the marketplace?
This isn't a miracle cure. It really relies on us having a strong, healthy crop a good agronomic practice. We're not trying to replace fertilizer. We're not trying to replace pesticides. We're looking for ways to optimize that plant health and really close that yield gap, right? From those incredible yields that are out there. And you're in areas right now where we can get some really amazing corn yields, for instance. And here, maybe we don't have the weather for it, but we also don't have all the other factors stacked up for it yet. And so how do we go from what we're actually getting, whether it's a 30 bushel an acre canola crop, how do we get to 60? How do we get to 80? By all these little factors stacking up. I don't think that I've got all the answers yet, but we're working on it. And so this is just one more way to optimize everything from start through grow and into the finish and into that yield potential.
You know, historically, our conversation has always been about, trying to kill weeds.
Yes.
You seem though like you are really, you're locking into this biological.
Yeah.
Like you're enjoying this.
I love it. It's a new concept, and I think farming, you learn something new every day. And this is just my way of farming, learning something new, figuring out how we can get that big bang for our buck, and how we continue to feed the world, right? That's what we're really trying to do. So let's keep doing it.
Yeah, great stuff. Hey, Tammy, thanks a lot for joining us here today on the Farmer Rapid Fire. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Corteva Biologicals for being the sponsor of today's Farmer Rapid Fire.
Stay warm.
Okay, everybody, stay warm. That is difficult this time of the year, really, across the country. But, hey, you know what you can do when you're inside? You can send me an email, your feedback, your thoughts, your comments, your takes on anything we chatted about today with our farmers. Or if you're interested in being on the Farmer Rapid Fire, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Thanks to Corteva Biologicals for being the sponsor. And we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.